and try them for covering up murder. They are an accessory to that crime. And so we hope, the reality is we fight and struggle that the state actually responds in this particular instance. But that's the struggle. And we can't shy away from that. And we would want, if we had, dual power, and we were rivaling the capitalist state, we'd go and get his ass ourselves. And we'd put him on trial.
Right. You want to be life in prison.
Exactly. But, that's not the reality that we're in. So we are part of calling for, or helping to initiate, a demonstration on the day of the grand jury. And the grand jury is really just going to decide what, if any, charges he'll be brought upon. And the girlfriend who was on the phone is testifying during that grand jury. And so we're calling people around the country to have demonstrations in support of this young man who's no longer alive and his family and their fight for justice. And hopefully that call will grow and many more organizations will sign on and take up this important fight, because it's part of the general fight against the capitalist system. And I've sort of gone on my time, but I was, it's hard to talk about that. It's heartbreaking what they did to him. And they, like Michael Kort said, they killed him twice, 3 times. I just came back from the last date of the tour for the first round of it, which was in LA. And I think if we're looking at numbers, we can say that the tour was a success. We had a standing room only. People actually left because there were no more seats or no more room to take seats in New York. Philadelphia was over 100 people from the community. Baltimore was 50 and LA was 50. The speakers that we were able to get on the panels are a like mind of us, and they have responded to the call for unity, because that's really what it is, the call for unity of organizations, revolutionary progressive organizations around trying to struggle and bring forward a people's program and fighting around those important needs. That's what it's about. I would say that LA was probably the most tremendous meeting, if I had to rank them, and maybe that's not useful, because it was really community people. It's probably about 95% black community people. And so the discussion was about the issues that they're facing: healthcare, schools. There were teachers, there were retired persons, there were postal workers, there were construction workers that were speaking about the things that they're organizing around and the conditions that they're struggling against, and wanting to very much find a way to struggle forward around these important demands, which is what we're trying to raise. In Baltimore, there was a young black homeless youth who showed up, who spends his day walking around the streets or at the library. And he got up. He dropped out of high school, doesn't have a high school degree. And he got up and he said, I'm not going to go over everything he said, but he never said anything about himself personally, really, other than the fact that how he found out about the meeting, which, because he walks around and he saw a poster. He said that, you know what? He said the biggest issue, I think, especially for black people, is jobs. He says because our level of unemployment is disproportionate, greatly so. And you can't survive without a job. Without a job, you can't hope to have anything. You can't even survive. And he said, I very much need a job. And that's the reason why that's how his family became homeless. Him, his mother, and his sister. And they're separated. They're separated. See, they always talk about the, like sanctity of life, and we got to protect life and shit like that, but they can give a damn once a child is born. And this just kind of shows it, that this family has been separated from one another because of the economic conditions of poverty and joblessness. And so they're separately trying to survive. And he spoke, but he talked in general terms. And so we did the best we can to help him, to set him up with a place to stay, with a program where he can get his GED, and with contacts, so he can contact people. They can check up on him, and with information regarding shelters for his family, and hopefully to be able to get a job. That's what we would hope, that this idea is would be to bring these groups together around the commonness of struggle and unity of fighting for these things is about building another power, really, when we're at that stage, which we're not, clearly, but also supporting and helping people on a community basis. It's a struggle from below, which is what we will help facilitate it. And the Occupy Wall Street movement and the first occupation of last year, which was the takeover of the Madison State Capitol, really changed a lot of things, the way people think about struggle in the United States and the importance of militancy. And so it sort of opened the door for talking about going forward, things that a couple years ago that we wouldn't have even thought that you can actually begin to open up that dialogue, but it's open now. And there's a possibility to talk about these things. Revolution is in the air. It's in the air. You know, it ain't going to come tomorrow, it ain't going to come next year, but it's sort of, people are talking about it now. Masses of people. So that's what the tour is about. And it's going to go, the next places are Chicago, Milwaukee, San Francisco, and San Diego is now building a meeting. So those are the next stops of it, and I think it will continue beyond there. All the people that we talked to, or the speakers, were very excited about it and looking forward to developing it. Cynthia McKinney is very much so, and was very happy about the turnout, and her participation is glad that we included her in it, and will continue to be involved in it. But, you know, finally, I would say that in light of, sometimes you never really know what is going to draw masses of people out in the streets. And Wednesday, the rally, it wasn't Occupy Wall Street. They helped facilitate it. But it was the masses of people in New York. Black people that came out, many of which probably never even went down to Zuccotti Park. And it was this tragedy that brought that out. As Comrade Holmes put it, it could be the straw. It's like when Jenna 6, when thousands of people rose up, but it was at a different political period. It feels like it was 10 years ago, but this is coming at this political period of this crisis that is not going anywhere, that is deepening day by day by day, and of this militant movement that has sprang up to help fight against the dictatorship of the ruling class in this country. But one of the things that Occupy Wall Street was able to provide to it was street tactics. The takeover of 6th Avenue. A lot of that was able to happen because how the skills of people were honed in the Occupy Wall Street movement, and they brought that to this struggle. And they supported one another, and I'm sure that many people who have never been to Occupy Wall Street are probably like, who are these people camped out over there? Probably much more interested in it now, especially seeing the support that they were giving in this case. So, you know, like anybody here, I wish that we weren't given a report on the murder of a 17-year-old young person, another young black person. And the list goes on and on and on. Things that we never even hear about. A young black man was hanged in Mississippi in 2010, and they refused to really investigate it. They refused to even investigate it because they don't want people to rise up in response to a lynching. But everything has its contradiction. And with this tragedy will embolden the struggle forward. And it will bring more fire of anger of people who are sick and tired of racism and sick and tired of these conditions that they have to deal with. And hopefully we'll win justice for this young man. And the greatest justice that we can provide to him and his family is to completely overturn the capitalist state. So all out for April 10th for the rally. And there are flyers, Monica's holding one up, and they're at the front, and all power to the people.